Okay. We're gonna do this in no particular order because it's really hard in season 2, I think, to discuss characters and like when you look at the top tiers, it's very clear that the top tiers are ahead of the others, but within those tiers themselves, it's really hard to say like who's better. They all have like these kind of like situations they're better in, or like these matchups they're good in. So we're just gonna talk about the top 10. The top 10. Um, First character I want to pull off of this for top tier is Hachi, because this man is a tad bit ridiculous in season 2, as you guys just saw in the games we were playing. He has a crazy ability to control the match with, he has Mishima tools, right? He has an electric. He has the dash, the 442, which has like extra pushback now. And they said the homing was reduced, but it actually seems to catch people stepping a lot more now. So, dealing with that, just those two options right there becomes a bit of a hassle because the electric is safe if you don't duck, and that it has a buff hitbox, and then 442 itself is really hard to sidewalk. If your character does have a punish for it, it might be an inconsistent punish with the spacing, and what that means is that Heihachi can kind of play at a distance, put out these hitboxes that can kill you, force you to respect those, and then as you're like playing around those and like calming down, he can go in with a whole bunch of different offensive tools like forward 4, up 3+4. He has a running 3. He has down back 2. The down by 2 situation in season 2 has become a bit scarier because of the fact that it leaves you in full crouch, right? So that full crouch low. We have to talk about uh chain buffs, right? You buff one move, and then the situations where that move becomes scary is now a buff situation. So the move that leads into that situation has become overall a buff move. So the change to Heihachi, 442 now he's grounded. And what that means is that after full crouch down forward 2, after forward 3, after forward 2-3, he can do the 442 and get a guaranteed like Oki flip over. So full crouch down forward 4 into forward forward 2 is now guaranteed. And that means a situation after down back 2 becomes a little bit more scary because you don't want to, like, if you're at the wall, uh, you know, you're free to the full crouch mix up after the down back 2. If you're mid screen, you can't really try to pressure Heihachi after the down forward 2 if he decides to like back off, right? So you down back 2 as Heihachi and you back off, right? You got a free hit in, right? And you can do whatever you want. Your opponent should almost always be backing off too, because you have so much frame advantage. If they try to challenge you, you can backdash, you can whiff punish. If they try to challenge you, you can while sending 1 counter hit. You can while sending 4 counter hit. You can do whatever counter hits you want because you have all this frame advantage. And on top of that, if they decide they want to move forward, they want to try like a risky play. If they're like, I know the Heihachi player is going to backdash every time after down back 2, then you can force them to dash to the full crouch mix up, which is a hassle. And that's only like one part of his offense. That's not even like the main part of his offense. That's just something that can happen. It's something that will do a lot of damage. It does the combined down back 2, full crouch down 4-4-4-4-2 damage is crazy. But then on top of that, like I said, the 4-4-2 can now be guaranteed after 4-3 hits on normal hit, and 4-3 is a safe mid counter hit launching knee that can't be parried, tracks one direction, is really hard to punish on whiff, and has very little recovery. So even on block, you're in a situation where you have to deal with more Heihachi shenanigans because his jab hitbox is kind of obnoxious. His down forward 1 hitbox is still obnoxious, and then also in that situation after blocking the forward 3 is that punch parry that now launches. So if you're trying to do a fast 13 frame mid check like with a down forward 1, after that forward 3, it's kind of obnoxious. You can die for doing the down forward 1, and you get comboed into Oki, into more defense against Heihachi. The character's kind of really messed up. So to me, he's very clearly one of the best characters in the game. I could go on some more, but we have to use some of this time on the other characters also. Um, I didn't even talk about the OTGF flipovers anymore. Yeah, it's so much more to that character, but you guys get the idea. These are the general ideas of why he's top tier. Right? He can control the game very well. He makes you respect his ranged pokes. He makes you respect or his ranged attacks. His close range pokes. They all do a lot of damage. They have high option coverage. They're safe, and they when you do start respecting them, he goes into some crazy offense that can really destroy your health bar. All right, coming back, the champion from season 1. This guy, still a problem. Not too much new in season 2, besides a couple of nerfs. He can no longer get the hell sweep combo at every range, so that does change his gameplay a lot. When you're playing neutral, you can backdash as he's approaching you, and you won't get hit by the hell sweep combo because it won't be like a clean hit. So he'll instead go for the crouch dash 3, and after the crouch dash 3, he gets a slightly advantageous ugly situation, but you're not dealing with another crouch dash mix up like you would be after the combo. That's the big hit to Devil Jin's overall power. But the character still does everything, right? He still has those Mishima control tools with the electric, the 442. He has his crouch dash mix up still. He has good pokes. What is that? What was that? Oh, thanks for the host, man. Yeah, so you see, he still has good pokes. He's still a crazy, well-rounded character, and the character can decide how he wants to play every game of Tekken. Right? If he wants to if I want to be a poking character this game, I can be a poking character this game with Devil Jin. If I want to distract my opponent with pokes and then like hit them with a big crouch dash mix up, I can still do that with Devil Jin. Right? If I want to go crazy, high risk, high reward, crouch dash for crouch dash, into upward for over and over, we can do that. He really gets to set the pace of the game and decide how he wants to approach every matchup. And the only thing that, it's like the only really downside to playing him is that you do have to be clean with your gameplay. If you pick the wrong strategy against the wrong type of player, the wrong matchup, you will look like trash with the character. But when you do start to understand the power that the character has and you do develop the ability to execute everything you can with the character, he becomes ridiculous. So yeah, that's Devil Jin. God, I hate that character. I'm not gonna lie to you. I have I have dealt with that character for a while, competitive, and I'm not a fan still. It's the same for Heihachi. Heihachi doesn't have as many safe mid pokes, so Heihachi does have the downside that when he does want to get aggressive, when he wants to kind of go in for the kill, he does give you an opportunity. But Devil Jin can decide if he wants to chip you down slowly or if he will just go in and big kill you. All right. The other champion of season 1, he's still up here. He's been toned down a bit, and I mean just a bit. The biggest or the most notable nerf is the back 1-2, but I don't even think that's like a crazy nerf. It leaves you standing now instead of giving you the crazy Oki you had before. So it does leave your opponent in a situation where they don't have to take guaranteed damage. But in season 1, when you got knocked down by back 1-2, you could just like stay on the ground, take that small guaranteed damage, and then you tech into the Oki situation. And the Oki situation wasn't super scary, so you could kind of like minimize the damage you would do by playing it correctly. And this season, Paul's back 1-2 leaves you standing in like with a billion frame advantage. So you're standing there against a Paul Phoenix. You're forced standing, and he can just dash in, and he has crazy frame advantage, right? And you're not in a real situation where you can like just backdash and be okay. He can really decide what he wants to do to you after that back 1-2 punish. It's still a little messed up. But overall, this character, the reason he's so strong now, the reason he was so strong in season 1 is because of the fact that he hits really hard and hits from a distance where you're mostly playing Tekken 7, right? Where this game isn't so allowing of closing distance with just movement, where you kind of need some attacks to kind of get your opponent to allow you to get to a range 0, and then you guys get forced out of range 0 really quickly. Paul is a character who can not even really worry about the ranges when you're doing his quarter circle back 2, his quarter circle back 4, his crouch dash 3, his down 1, his quarter circle forward 1, his down forward 2. When you're playing at these ranges, the down forward 2 whiff is mostly safe. Your opponent kind of has to stand close to get the whiff punish. So it creates this game plan of, if you're fighting a character with like who can't really match your range, you're fighting like a Law, a Forong, I don't want to say Steve because Steve is a weird character. A Shaheen or any of these other characters that kind of just like normally use movement to get into range of like they're poking and then they just poke and play small Tekken. Paul is monstrous, which is why he was like Kazumi's worst matchup in season 1, because he can just do so much damage from so far away. He controls it in a way where if I'm standing kind of far away, you're sitting kind of far away. I'm Paul Phoenix, right? I have this threat that I can always just dash up, crouch dash 3 you. I can dash up, quarter circle back 2 you. And that's going to make you want to play more active, right? You're not going to want to stand at that range against Paul. You're going to want to try to get to your close range because you know if you stay too far away, then you're going to die. So then you have to decide how you're going to approach, right? You can stay outside of range of the quarter circle back 4, of the crouch dash 1. If you stay out of range of his keep out attacks, then you're again leaving yourself open to getting dashed into like a crouch dash 3 or something. But let's say you even get that right. You know he's not going to be aggressive. You know he's going to back off and he's going to be defensive. He's going to try to keep you up. At that range, where you're outside of quarter circle back 4, you're outside of quarter circle forward 1, you can't whiff punish down forward 2. So you can kind of like throw it down forward 2 as a test to kind of like, if you dash into this, you'll dash in and die because you try to attack, but you're over there so you can't whiff punish. If you want to get closer to whiff punish the down forward 2 to punish him and like make him not go to the down forward 2, then you're standing in perfect range for the quarter circle back 4, which is safe on, which is frame advantage on block, counter hit launching, strong keep out, kind of hard to whiff punish, all that stuff. This character is ridiculous. He's been doing that for a while, but he did that in Tekken Tag 2 also. But the difference between Tekken Tag 2 and Tekken 7 is that in Tekken 7 you're mostly playing at that range. In Tekken Tag 2, when you close the distance on him, you could poke him, you could stay in his face and kind of like punish him for like letting you in. In this game, most pokes from up close will push you back to a point where you have to kind of play through his game again, right? So it's always in Paul's. The ball is always in Paul's court. And you can feel that when you're playing like characters that have no range, and then when you're playing characters that do, who can kind of match his range, like Brian, like Jin, like an Armor King or something, you can feel that the game is a little bit more even. But those characters normally have weaknesses that Paul doesn't. Like with Brian, Paul's going to, if you're both throwing out attacks at that range, Paul's probably going to be faster. Paul's going to be safer if you block his stuff, because quarter circle back 2 pushes out, quarter circle back 4 frame advantage, stuff like that. So he's a really strong range control character who can kind of just start abusing characters at a distance, and it feels unfair. Oh yeah. And quarter circle 4-3 -14 is not like Lacey said in the chat, is not launch punishable by most of the casts. And then if you're playing against Paul and you're playing like a Kazumi type character, so like one of the smaller range characters, Kazumi, Shaheen, Law, if you're playing one of those characters and you expect Paul to dash in, right? Because you're doing all this of respecting of Paul, you're like, okay, I think right now he's gonna abuse me because I've been chilling back here. If you expect Paul to dash in, you cannot just do a poke, because the quarter circle forward 3 will hit you at a range where it can like evade your down forward 1 poke. It can go under your jab, and worse, if you mess up your timing, you can get counter hit by it into just frame demo man for hella damage. It's kind of crazy. So that's how I feel about Paul. Like I said, there's more to that character, but that's the general idea of why the character is so strong. Let's see. I made a list before I started the streams just to make sure I have my top 10 ready to go. I'm trying to think who to pull from it next. Yeah, okay, we're going for it. That man, Martial Law. I've been playing him a lot on the stream recently. You guys have seen. This character, was always good. In season one, Jimmy used to say that he was top three. I don't know if that was a legit statement or a troll. I know Jimmy thought really highly of him because I understand Jimmy's playstyle, and I understand that when Nee was first starting playing this game, he said Law was like like the best in the game. Um, I understand that because they had similar playstyles, same problems. But in season two, he's definitively, I'd say top five. I think you'd be kind of dumb to argue that he's not top five in this season. Um, Down back three situation has a little bit less pushback. Um, but that's not to me. That's not the biggest change. The biggest change to Law is the fact that the other characters have been nerfed. Right, the characters that used to just edge him out with just like a little bit of a power, like a little bit on the power scale, have kind of been brought down a bit. Dragonov, Kazumi, um, Paul, Double Jin. The characters that he would compete with for the top spot have been brought down a bit. So now you can really start to feel like this character's strength. His ability to control the game is kind of insane because first things one, like jab, like 1, 2, 3. These are safe tools that can like counter a good portion of everyone else's options, and you know can kind of lead to good reward, good situations, but it creates this idea that you have to play around Law's tools, right? You have like Law will 1, 2, 3, and you understand it's hard, like it's really like nearly impossible to step that and launch it because the three tracks. It's hard to duck and launch it because the three just comes out. It's a big why not move for Law, and you can't really contest it with your attack, so you kind of like block it, and then you're left in this meta game where you like have to attack Law after, and you have to go for your offense. He's forced you in a situation where like if you don't take your turn, he's going to do some other stuff. And he has 4 1+2, which puts him in a situation of being in crouch with frame advantage. Um, and this is something that I don't see abused nearly enough by other Law players. I've been trying to do it a lot more myself, but the person I see abuse it most is Jimmy J Tran when he plays Law. Um, that situation as a 4 1+2 on block is super messed up because while sending 4 into DSS 3+4 is a counter hit launcher. 11 frame while sending counter hit launcher, uh, it does crazy damage, right? Law lost nothing for going for that 4 1+2, putting you in that bad situation. He can just keep doing it over and over, make you want to play around it. And then if you decide to contest it afterwards, if you decide like afterwards, okay, no more of this, I'm gonna get him out of my space. I'm sick of being at range 0. I want to back up. You do like a wild 74 or something, just like something really quick. He can wild 74, DSS 3+4 for counter hit. It's a big counter hit string, does like crazy damage. Is not fair. And then on top of that, you spend your time playing around Law's tools that are super fast. You decide I'm just gonna block. I'm not gonna contest with my own attacks because if I contest with my own attacks, I could get magic forward. I could just get randomly beat out by 1, 1, 2, 3, down 4, 1. Any of these pokes, then he can just chip you down. He can maintain his lead. If you don't attack in Tekken, you can. If you don't attack in Tekken, you can't win the game. And if Law is forcing you to not attack, he can just take whatever hits he wants, whatever hits he finds. So a straight down back 3 into down 4-3, a slide. He could threaten the slide to make you kind of panic into getting counter hit. He can do a bunch of stuff. So character's kind of crazy in his ability to control a game, and then he's pretty okay in his ability to uh, kill you once he's taken control of the game. And then he had to say down 4-2 launcher. Just throwing that out there. You can really just do down 4-2 sometimes when you have no idea what else to do, and it just works. Okay, this guy, the Law's counterpart. Like it's kind of cool. We have Hachi here in the middle, and then we have like Devil Jin, who's like this range control freak who does like a lot of damage at a distance, and then you have like Paul, who's a more polarized version of that, and you have Steve, this character, or you have Law, this character who controls and then chips down, and you have like Steve, which is a more polarized version of that. 1-2-1. One of my favorite strings in Tekken, purely because of the legacy this move has or has. If you watch like Tekken 5 Steve, you see these Steve players moving around with the crazy Tekken 5 movement doing 1-2-1. It's such a cool string. It looks so cool. But when you're fighting it, it's obnoxious. It's not cool because they come off a jab. It's 10 frames. Again, it's kind of like Steve or Laws 1-2-3. Um, with Steve, he can cancel in the flicker. Um, create like a small a small frame gap with the flicker back or flicker one down one counter hit into some damage, which you can sometimes combo off of, which is kind of insane. Um, the biggest change to this character in season 2 is his rage drive. He has always been one of the most controlling characters in the game, right? Like I said, he's really limiting. He's kind of like Law in that aspect. He's more so limiting than Law, but he's less. He's got less ability to pressure you into getting counter hit or into dealing with this stuff, right? So where Law can really scare you with the slide, he can really stay on you with a down back 3, down 4-3, uh 4-1+2, all that stuff. Steve is a character who has a little bit less of that, but he's a lot safer in how he just puts his boxes out on the screen and makes sure to play around him with 1-2-1, with back 1, with down forward 2, with down forward 1, with quarter circle forward 1. All of these moves are kind of just moves Steve can just do, and he doesn't really lose much for doing them. And you have to work really hard to get around them. And if you mess up, counter hit, big damage, or frame advantage, whatever. But he sacrifices what Law has with the slide. He has less mid-low mix-ups, which means you have less of a reason to crack against Steve. So it plays this game when you feel like you're getting suffocated, like you're trying to earn small pokes where you can. You're playing around his jabs, you're playing around his back when you're getting high crush lows and wherever you can, but you're playing at his pace. You can't really go more than that because if you try to go for something too crazy, it could be a big back one. You could lose all of the damage you worked for real quick. But now that after all that gets down into why the rage drive buff was such a big deal for this character, because the common strategy against Steve is to be very patient. Like I said, you have much less of a reason to crack against him. He can only really like break your ankles with like small pokes. So you play around his tempo, you play around his controlling pokes, and you take little hits where you can. And maybe eventually, you've done it better. You outplayed the Steve player entirely. You played around his stuff so well that you have a big lead on him. You have I don't know, like 60% health to his 20, right? Now you can no longer even whiff a poke, right? If you whiff a down forward 1 against Steve, a jab, you're running the risk of running into his new rage drive, the 14 frame launching Sonic Fang. I thought that was ridiculous as soon as I saw it in the trailer. I think it's more ridiculous now that I've played it. Sonic Fang has always been one of the best whiff punishers in the game. As far as like the ability to use it, you can always whiff punish like a quick poke. You can do whatever. You don't get much reward for it, right? It's not a launcher, but it's 14 frames. It goes really far. When he has rage, it's a launcher. So you're playing against this character where you have to like play around his speed. You have to stay small. You have to use quick pokes. You have to use whatever you can to stay as safe as possible. And then he has this thing that just blows you up for your safe stuff if you even micro whiff. It's crazy. It makes securing rounds with Steve a lot easier. It makes making comebacks with Steve a lot easier. It makes the character a lot more forgiving. When you're forcing your opponent to play into the style, and then you have a "Oops, I messed up" button, it's ridiculous. He's one of the best characters in the game, I think. Okay. Yeah. So moving on. Looking at this list. Hold on. We got the first. Okay. they talk about the toxic tracking yet. That was given. It's part of his option cover. It's part of his control. It's really hard to get step around those pokes that he can do kind of safely. So that's part of what makes him so safe. They just cover all of your options. You block, he's safe. You step, he's safe. You backdash, he's safe. You have to play around the pokes. You have to make the read on him. You have to get a little bit of damage for those things. If these are in order from 1 to 10, these are not in order. This top 10 is entirely unordered. I'm not even like I don't even want this to be seen in the top 5, but I'm running out of space. You know. Okay. Oh shit! It's that boy. Okay, Jin Kazama. He's the same Jin he was last season. Um, this placing here in this top 10 is a combination of something being, down 4 being slightly safer, which is good in his bad matchups. It kind of alleviates a lot of issues he had in bad matchups where he couldn't like poke low, like against Eddie, against Kazuya, or not Eddie, but against Kazuya, against like Josie, stuff like that. But a big reason this character is moving up so much again is because of the decrease in power from these other characters, right? From Devil Jin, from Paul, um, those characters like competed with him. They did kind of well against the character. Um, Kazumi was a big issue. How strong this character was a big issue for Jin because playing Jin versus Kazumi is really obnoxious due to the fact that he does mostly use longer range, slower pokes, and when she got in his face, he couldn't really like get her off. His counter hit 4 received a change in how it knocks down, so he gets more consistent counter hit 4 combos. But the overall game plan of this character, again, it's a controlling play style, but it's not controlling in the way that Steve and Law are, where they use really fast attacks all the time to cover options. Jin has the ability to control games from a distance. He is really safe from like range 1.5, range 2 with his forward 4, his demon paw, his electric. These things that are hard to get around. You kind of force you to move around them, and they do a lot of damage if you mess up against them and put them in a good situation. So at a distance, when you're fighting Jin, you're playing against Jin's neutral game. You're in the situation where you don't want to contest what he's doing at those ranges. Because they 9 times out of 10 they'll end up beating out whatever range tech you're trying to do, whatever folks you're trying to put on the screen. It gives Jin like free reign to kind of move around, decide if he wants to go in, decide if he wants to back off some more, and make you like have to force that long range situation in your face, or if he wants to go in for a hell sweep, crouch dash mix up, safe 4-4-3, 4-4-4, 1-2-3. All of these things are relatively safe. They go into good offensive situations for Jin, and he can just like stay in control of the game and decide how he wants to kill you and kind of like suffocate you from a distance, a little Sea Fox esque. Okay, not much to say about Jin because Jin is probably, I think, the simplest character in these in this whole category. Just because when you're playing optimal Jin, you're not doing a lot. Like he has a lot of tools, but like the scariest stuff is more limited and just really good. Okay. What else is on this list? Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. Wait. No. Before we get to my favorite, we have Kazuya. I think if I were going to make it like an actual tier list, I'll probably put these characters below these 5. Right. So these would be like the top 5, and then like just underneath them, still crazy, still a gap in the power between these 10 and the rest of the cast is Kazuya. Am I considering the? No, I'm not. I'm just putting characters on the screen. Okay. This one less less about the strength of less about the strength of this character and more so about the strength of the other characters falling again. Um, People are not going to be playing that small, safe, pokey play style that kept Kazuya under the issue of like I can't deal with these kind of like bully characters as much. I think playing Kazuya versus Law versus C is still an issue, but the character himself is allowed to do more of what he likes to do in this game, which is kind of be crazy. I don't the safe Kazuya style that we used to see in like Tag 2s, Tekken 6. Um, Not so much there, but his crouch dash makes up received a buff with the down forward or the down back 2 being safe and like doing a knockdown thing into the forward forward 4. Um, there's another buff I can't remember right now, but the character himself is like just fundamental Tekken where he can take control of the game through a range with electrics. Again, like if you notice, every time we talk about a character with electrics, they have range control. Jin, Kazuya, Hachi, Devil Jin, and then he can force you into the crouch dash and mix up a little bit more than Devil Jin can. It's not as rewarding, but the threat of Kazuya's hell sweep is a little more toxic because of the Oki situation it puts you in, where you're like right next to him. He can 4-4-4 you after and force you to flip over into the situation again, or he can just force you to tech the situation again. He can decide if he wants to go for the hell sweep or the satchel kick. He can decide if he wants to mix up the satchel kick with the safe down back 2 into 4-4-4. Um, and then outside of that, the character just has amazing punishment. He has like a scary offense. He has good control. Um, Not too much new with this character. You guys all kind of know Kazuya. Uh, Good character. All right, hold on. So now this is what. So I said this in last stream where I talked about the top 7, and I mentioned these characters, and I was like, top 7 is really easy to define, but then outside of that, it gets really hard to like even complete a top 10. So I had characters here in the top 10 that I think some people are clearly not going to agree with, but I have like a long list of honorable mentions that like should have gone in these last 3 spots too. So moving forward, this dude. Oh wait, no, not this one. Not Panda. It's not Panda. This guy right here, Miguel. I've been playing a whole lot of this character. This character is ridiculous. He's kind of that guy right now. I love playing Miguel. In season 2, they have fixed a lot of the issues I thought he had. I loved the gameplay he had in season 1 was very. It reminded me a lot of Horong, but it had this terrible issue where he had no range, and when he worked really hard to get around his opponent to get to the point where he could poke and like play his game, he was not allowed to like stay there. He could not keep you there. He couldn't earn his advantage and keep it. Well, donation.
We know you have good tech, but what about them dance moves in the club?
Yo, Z, thanks for the $5, bro. No response, by the way. um, so at season 2, they buffed the Savage Stance like crazy. He the Savage Down Back 3 is like +6 on hit or something like that, +6, +7, one of those things, and it creates a situation where The moment he hits it, it's his game. You have to deal with whatever's coming next. He can loop it back into the Savage down back three. He can go into Savage down forward two, which has a lot more pushback in this season for whatever reason. I don't know why they buffed the pushback on that move, but it's already hard to step. It's one of those Hachi 4-4-2 situations. Um, and then he gets like crazy damage off it when he does hit it. A lot of characters can't punish it. Some characters, some characters can't punish it. Some characters only get a small punish for it. But either way, it's a big, demanding, or commanding mid launcher that has a lot of range, tracks a little bit, and can be mixed up immediately after the Savage down back three. He still has pressure tools like that lead into the Savage like upward one, back three, and then his neutral is ridiculous because his movement is so good. And having the good movement changes everything because now you're not just dealing with a character who can like kind of go in, force you to make mistakes really well and then kill you for those mistakes, but you're dealing with a character who can kind of back off and move around your own neutral and kind of play around how you're playing really well before he gets to that point where he can just decide to destroy you. When he hits the on switch, when he decides it's time for him to go in, he can win the game. But until he decides it's time for him to win the game, he can stay safe. He can keep the game going slow. He can control the pace with his movement. His character is ridiculous. Okay. I could go on more about Miguel, but I'm gonna hold on to some of that. I'll show you guys in the future why this character is ridiculous. Um. Okay. And next on this list, this is difficult because I wrote this down already, but I still can't decide between these two characters. If it is Asuka, yo, illusion. Thanks so much for the sub, man. If it is Asuka, if it is Dragunov, or if it is Eliza. Right, we don't have that many spots left. But character I've gone with currently is Eliza. I think this character is ridiculous, and I thought so in season one. I did not say it that often, but I've seen enough in season two to think that the character is pretty ridiculous in the fact that she does not have to play the game. Her movement in her hitbox eliminates so much of the game. And then when you get around, like when you finally start to understand what you can and can't do against the character, when you understand what other characters like can and can't do against this character, then you start understanding the range you have to play her at, right? You can't go in and keep her at range zero. You could, like, even in like a law type character cannot like stay on her purely for the fact that she has like kind of really mashy moves. Like the 4 is a homing counter hit launch, which is kind of ridiculous. Her back one high crushes for no reason, tracks one direction. Down back 3 tracks the direction. She has a weird hitbox on her hop kick. So all that you get to range 0, you decide to start swinging against her movement. You want to move to try to keep. You want to move to try to keep her at that range. Then she can start like throwing out these attacks, which are really safe, which are really hard to get around, which are really hard to punish, and they can also kill you. Say power crush, weird, evasive stances, and then you decide, okay, no, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna contest her at that range. We're not gonna try to keep her there. We're going to space her out. She has better movement than you, so of course, spacing her out in general is going to be difficult. And then she has better rewarding attacks than you do at that range. She has down 3, which is a move that is kind of self-explanatory. So it's like a full screen low, which goes into, which can't go into a string, which you can't really interrupt it. So you have to kind of respect the possibility of the string afterwards, which can lead her into a full crouch mix up. So this low just done damage to you, and then put her in a position to get safer, get a safer and more rewarding mix up off of that. And new to season 2, they buffed her while sitting 3, so you can no longer backdash the second hit of while sitting 3/3, which means that that's become a more viable mid option after when she's gone into full crouch, and then she can also cancel that into whatever else she wants to do. So she can kind of maintain her offense really well. Um, she does have the running 2, which you can spend your time respecting, but if you get caught moving against the running 2, then it's big damage for no reason. Um, of course, naturally, the running 3/4, same concept. If you get caught moving against the running 3/4, if you get caught trying to duck the running 2, if you get caught trying to duck the down 3, then you get bodied. So you can sidewalk left against these options, but she can mix up her timing because you're playing against a character who is attacking you at a range where you can't really attack her back, right? There's no punishment for her mixing up her timing to not get sidewalked. So you're playing against her game this whole time, where she's like throwing out all these attacks that can kill you, that are kind of hard to get a big punish off of and lead to good situations for her. And then when you get to a good situation for you, she can neutralize it like crazy with her overly obnoxious backdash and weird hitbox. There's more to it, but that's the general idea. She's like Tekken's like doll sim on steroids or something. All right. So then we've got 4 here. One last character. Is it Asuka or is it Dragunov? I I struggle to decide if it's Asuka or if it's Dragunov. I like even right now. Like I said, I named named the 3 before. Um, for the sake of this conversation, I should flip a coin or something. It should be a top. It should be a top 11 video. This is difficult. Um, there's a lot of honorable mentions when it comes to this top 10 list. Let's go. What? Let's go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and put Asuka here, and I'm gonna explain why I'm putting Asuka instead of Dragunov. The reason Asuka's up here is kind of up here is it's kind of for the same reason that Elisa's up here and instead of Dragunov. Dragunov is a character that equips the player with the tools to play an even game and to win, to break down their opponent's game, to adjust to be a good Tekken player. But Elisa and Asuka kind of, as characters themselves, are threats, right? Instead of the Elisa player or the Asuka player being super threatening to like win a tournament or something, it's more about, as a player, when you run into these characters, how much work do you have to do to overcome the character instead of overcoming the player. And with when you're fighting Dragunov, it's very clear you're fighting the opponent. But when you're fighting Elisa, when you're fighting Asuka, a lot of it comes down to just overcoming the power of the character. The option coverage that they have is insane. Like I said, Elisa's ability to control the range comes from her having better options than everyone else at the range, so she can kind of just do what she wants. For most of the time, you get close, she can do what she wants with her movement. To actually force an issue on Elisa, to force an issue on Asuka, it becomes a big issue. So dealing with Asuka in this game is still basically the same as it was dealing with her in season 1. You play around her attacks, you sidewalk right, block the 4/4, sidewalk right again, sidewalk block, Be very patient against her. Take your hits when you get them. Maximize your offensive opportunities. If you can bait a defensive response from the Asuka player, you do it. You punish her as hard as you possibly can. But the difference now from that or between now and then is that she gets a lot more reward off of you playing around her, right? Her forward one is a lot more safe. On whiff, it doesn't do the little stagger animation anymore. So so Asuka players can go for the 4-4-1 a little bit more now. In Oki situations, the situation we're going for it in Oki safe. Um, if they expect you to do a sidestep into a block, they can dash into a delay 4-4-1. From a distance, her 4-4-3 control has gotten stupid because it's an attack that high crushes, that is homing and has so much range. The 4-4-3 has always been an attack you needed to respect, but now if you mess up against it, you get counter hit launched. So long range, safe, counter hit, mid homing. There's no answer to it besides block it and play Asuka's mix up afterwards. And with that, when you introduce an option like that into the game that becomes so powerful, like so punishing, a player is going to have to respect it. Is going to have to play around it, and it gives Asuka the chance to do what she wants, right? So not just after the 4-4-3, but instead of doing 4-4-3, while my opponent is playing back there, they're playing safe, they're trying to move to not get counter hit launched by 4-4-3. What can Asuka do? She can dash it, she can poke you with down back 3, she can reset it back to that same spacing where she controls it. She can down 2, she can reset it back to the same spacing where she controls it. She can go for the 4-4-1, uh, the zone where she controls it. She can 4-2 cancel into full crouch mix-ups, whatever she wants. She's gotten much more freedom to poke because of the fact that she's so much more punishing when you're playing around her, and then that adds power to the pokes themselves because now the pokes are getting used more because you're playing a more defensive game against Asuka and putting her in situations less where you can force out those big unsafe defensive responses to punish. So she's getting punished less and she's punishing you harder, and all of that power comes mostly from the character and not so much like the player being 200 IQ. And that's why I put Asuka in this top 10 instead of Dragunov. And then of course there's honorable mentions. Number one Dragunov. I'm not gonna say Julia because she's not in the game yet. Arbor King, I think is really good currently in season 2. Um, where is he? Here, you put him here. Armor King is really good in season 2, I think. Eddie, super strong. Master Raven, stupid. They gave her a power crush and back turn, which is kind of ridiculous. Lee Chao Lan has a lot more conversions off of his stuff now. There, a lot of these characters are really strong. If I were to, like I said before, if I were to make a tier list, like an actual tier list, it would be like these top 10, or more like these top 7 above everyone else. And then like most of the cast would be just underneath that top 7. And then only a few characters would be like below that. So yeah. Hopefully I did a good job explaining how those characters worked. Doing this wasn't so much about putting my opinion out there because I don't really care if people hear my opinion about the game, or like I don't need some kind of like validation off of like having people agree or disagree with my tier list. But it was more so to just explain how these characters work, so that people, if they're looking into play the game or something and they're trying to like learn the game, they could get an idea of how these characters work real quick. Go through this and whatever. All right, let's play some Tekken.